Back to another Archi-Tech Talk live. As always, takes a few seconds to come on live, so I usually chat for a bit until I can see myself on my second screen, which is usually around now. Um, so hopefully that's coming through. There we go. All right. All right, guys, welcome to episode 10 of Archi-Tech Talks Live. We started these a little bit later in the year and we're already 10 episodes deep. And we're going to be ramping these up, of course, in the build up to the summit, in the build up to our events. That we're going to be doing loads of this with our sponsors and with workshops and loads of cool people. So, but I think this is going to be the last one of the year. Let's jump in and introduce our guests and who we're going to be talking about today. So today, episode 10, we're going to be talking with the RunChat guys, who actually know one of the founders, Gwyll, from conferences and his last startup called Follogram, which is also a really cool startup. And they'll be building this really interesting new app that seems to kind of bring in the world of AI into your design tools. Now, for us, that's Rhino, but they've also got extensions to Blender and I think Revit and some other ones. So yeah, I'm pretty excited for this one. Let me pull up onto the stage. We have Gwyll, who's one of the co-founders of Runchat, and James, who's the other co-founder of Runchat, who are calling in all the way from Australia. You're our second Australians in the last month.
Yeah, good morning, everybody. It's actually now it's a kind of a reasonably acceptable time to start the day.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I appreciate you guys coming on. We usually do these times so we can capture, people here in the UK, people here in the US, and a little bit towards the Middle East and maybe India. But for you guys, it is a little bit of a trickier time. So thank you guys for tuning in.
No worries.
Maybe just before I hand over to these guys and we talk a little bit more about your tool, a quick reminder to everyone that I'm just going to share my screen. We're going to be delivering a lot more of these in the build up to our ATN summit. Let me mess around with the layout. The summit is a 2-day conference here in London, which is going to be talking about ideas that challenge, inspire, and elevate the future of architecture and technology. It's a 2-day conference, one stage, none of this bullshit of 2 stages, right? So you can see all the different speakers. We've already got an incredible lineup of speakers that will be talking about everything from architecture, technology, entrepreneurship. We have influencers, we have firms, we have tech innovators. There's a whole bunch of stuff that's going on. You can check out the lineup. It's looking pretty epic so far. And this is almost just over half of the speakers so far. And we're also going to be doing workshops in the build up to the summit. So these are free workshops, or most of them will be free. We just did the Big and D5 one this weekend. You can still watch it on our YouTube channel. We got Foster's up next with their own platform and some collaborations with Zaha, Epic Games, KPF, and a hackathon before the event. Tickets are now live. We got the early bird tickets going on right now. They're going quickly, so grab them before they go. If you're a student, you can also grab tickets there. That's enough of me trying to sell our stuff. But it should be a pretty good event, and hopefully James and Gwyll will see you guys at the summit to share what you guys are doing with it. But maybe before I hand over, Gwyll, do you want to just give us a little intro to Runchat, a little bit about your backgrounds? Obviously, we know each other from the world of Follogram, which is also really cool software that you guys built. Yeah, maybe give yourselves a little bit of an introduction.
Yeah, thanks, Ali. That conference looks amazing. Yeah, hopefully we can get there. A tiny bit of background. I mean, I might even introduce James a little bit. Both James and I have backgrounds in architecture turned computational design turned software development effectively. For the last decade or so, I've been running another startup with Nick and Cam called Follogram, which is building augmented reality solutions for fabrication, so on the building side of things, and that startup's still going. We're focusing this one with Runchat on more of the it's still sort of tools for creatives, I guess. Like Foligram is about unlocking access to like digital information for craftspeople is, I guess, a way to think about it. And here we're just interested in extending creativity for everyone. I think it's like, how can we work with generative tools to come up with better ideas and communicate things in new ways and all the rest of it, which we'll show you about.
Yeah, awesome. James, what about your background? You've got quite an interesting background yourself as well.
Yeah, so before working on Runchat, yeah, I also have an architectural background. I was in the US for a few years, and that's where I kind of got more into the engineering side of things. I was working at Airbnb at like their R&D team, which was called Samara. Now that's broken out into its own company that's solving the problem of putting I guess, accessory dwelling units in people's backyards to ease the housing crisis in the States. Since then, just been back in Australia, improving my skills as a software engineer, and yeah, was going surfing a lot with Gwyll, and and a lot of the car rides we would just talk about, interesting ideas about what startup we could be working on, and yeah, somewhere down the line, Gwyl's like, "Hey, check out this Git repo," and the rest is history.
That's awesome. I love that's like is that like the Aussie equivalent of the pub? So I think here the pub is where innovation happens. You're like having a few beers, you're like, "Oh, have you tried out this this GitHub or like this new thing?" For you guys it's surf on the waves.
That's it. Yeah.
Yeah, the
That's
opposite
awesome.
happens at the pub. At the pub, you're kind of not doing much innovation. But yeah, that 1.5 hour drive down to the surf coast, it's good for chatting about ideas.
Oh, that's awesome. I like that story. It's really interesting. You ended up at Airbnb. Like, I won't go too much into it. We're not transitioning to a podcast. We'll have you guys on a podcast and talk about your backstory. But when you were at Airbnb, was it architectural? Like, was it kind of any architectural stuff you were developing, or was it kind of pure
Mhm.
software?
Yeah, I mean, it was actually a bit of both. It was a pretty interesting position because they were interested in like it was like their skunk works. It was like full of artists and writers and engineers, architects from all around the states and the world. And yeah, we were working on like a range of different projects. One of them was, working on the housing shortage and seeing what we could do to have some impact on that problem. And yeah, so initially it was just like 3D artist stuff, and then over time, I amassed a team of like these amazing artist engineers, and we were just kind of like building and solving all sorts of different problems. And eventually that culminated in like one of the things we worked on the most was like how we could just make the on trip experience at Airbnb more seamless. And so that was yeah, just working accommodated in like a smart lock integration. So yeah, there was just like a number of things. I was there for about 6 years, and yeah, it was a really interesting experience for sure.
Awesome. That sounds cool. We'll unpack that for the. We'll get you guys on the podcast and talk more about your origin stories. But I thought it was good to touch on here. Um, I think let's jump into it. Are you guys, if you guys are ready, we can hand over and let you share screen, present, or demo, or whatever you guys will show us. I'm excited.
Cool. Yeah, I mean, we'll probably jump back and forth a little bit between like James sharing and me sharing. So hopefully that doesn't train wreck
No problem.
our
We're
systems.
freestyle here. We don't have any rules. You can present how you like.
Cool. Well, I'll just talk through Runchat at a really high level, and then James might do a quick demo of the what it's actually like using the app, and then we'll jump into some, I guess, like use casey type things. So
And by the way, guys, a reminder that people that are listening, if you have questions as we're going and you want to, we'll save some to the end. But if you have questions, put them in the comments below the video. I'll pick them out and we'll discuss them towards the end. All
yeah,
right,
feel
Will,
free to
I'll hand over,
interrupt.
let you take it away.
Cheers. All right. So, yeah, Runchat's a web app, which means that it's a little piece of software that you can use on your phone, or you can use on your laptop, or you can kind of integrate it with CAD tools that designers already use. And it is essentially, it's like an infinite canvas where you can connect together different generative models for generating like images and videos and text and things like that, and also editing images and videos and text. And the other thing that it does is it connects to various services on the internet, so that you can integrate creative workflows with, let's say, like more like typical automations where you might be like, sending emails to yourself and things like that. So, I mean, our primary kind of use case that people are using Runchat for is for various kinds of architectural visualization. So the task is usually you've got some sort of sketch or early stage project, and you want to, as quickly as possible, turn it into a really compelling set of the drawings or renders or photographs or 3D models or whatever it might be. James is going to show a little bit more about like what the app actually looks like, but I mean, the other thing with Runchat is that it's, you make these little workflows for different tasks. So, the video we're seeing on screen here is the workflows where you might have a sketch or a screenshot from CAD, and you're trying to convert that into a photograph or a video. Every time you do that, it's not a one-off exercise. It's a reusable tool that you can kind of use over and over again with different inputs. So I guess the development of Runchat was pretty heavily inspired by spending a long time in tools like Grasshopper when I was a student, or even over the last kind of 10 years or so with Fologram. And I think that combination of a creative tool with a workflow automation tool, something that's parametric, is actually going to be really powerful. There'll be all sorts of really exciting new things that you can do when you combine those two capabilities. So that's the sort of very high level spiel. Maybe James, do you want to jump in and show what it actually looks like, the app?
Yep. Cool. Okay, so this is what the Runchat editor looks like. It's kind of like, I guess, Mirror in a way, but it's much more dynamic in terms of, I guess, the tools that we give you and the tools that you can make yourself. So it's easy just to kind of like pan around. And in this example here, I was just trying to mash up a bit of Piranesi and also some Frank Gehry. Yeah, on the canvas, there's a bunch of nodes at the moment. And so the nodes are like the main thing you'll work with in Runchat. Each of these nodes has like inputs and outputs, and you can connect them to one another. Most people, I'm assuming, in the chat will be familiar with Grasshopper. And so it has that kind of like node-based editor DNA. But each one of these nodes can do like a number of interesting things. So like an example here is like there's this kind of sketch of I guess an interior, and there's two ways that we have at the moment to create nodes. So I'll show you the kind of easy way, where it's like if you select a node, it appears in this the prompt bar here, and I can say make this a realistic architectural photograph of a marble interior, and it kind of will think about this prompt that I've made. It'll like recognize that I've got something selected, and so it's suggesting here that we use Gemini 3 or 2.5, so it's like Nano Banana or Nano Banana Pro. And I clicked one of the recommendations. It creates a node. It automatically connects them. And it'll start generating the edit that we've asked for. So so the easiest way I think to use Runchat as a beginner is to be using this prompt bar. Okay, in this case, it's retained some of the elements of this, but it's also made like a completely different edit. So in this case, sometimes it doesn't exactly go to plan. There's a number of models available here. So every node, usually underneath it, there's this toolbar. You can select a number of different models. Gwyll and I basically are checking models all the time and keeping up with anything that's new. So we're basically adding things all the time. So in this case, we can probably use Gemini 3 Pro and get that running. And there are a few options on like aspect ratio, number of variations, and you can also see a further number of settings if you want to get really kind of custom. So like that's one way to make nodes and use Runchat. The other way would be, and you'll see Gwyll probably doing this a fair bit, is if you drag away from the output of a node and release the trackpad or mouse on the canvas, you get this kind of menu asking you what you'd like to do with that output. So for instance, I might want to edit an image. It creates that and connects them. And yeah, so that's like just a really kind of basic like example of how you can use Runchat. So Runchat also covers a diverse range of media. We have like an image input. We can convert that image to video, and we have a number of different models that you can use for that. We have like first last image support, so you can have like a fair amount of control over your creations. And yeah, I think like going a bit nerdier and deeper, we also have like the support of like data trees. So in this example, we've used what's called like an agent node to prompt an LLM model, and we've output a few different options as a list. They go into the input here, and they're operating on this single image input. And so, yeah, you can really easily generate a number of variations and, have branching and all those sorts of capabilities that people might be familiar with from Grasshopper. Okay, and let's just go back to that generation from earlier. So yeah, Gemini 2.5, we didn't get lucky, but Gemini 3 has worked very well to kind of make this a realistic image. And yeah, I guess, Gwyll, I can pass it back to you maybe to talk more about going a bit deeper into architectural workflows.
Sounds good. Yeah, let's jump into Rhino. Oh, I can take over. Okay, I'm going to steal your screen. Yeah, so that demo that James has showed in terms of where you've got like a sketch and you want to change the communication style of that sketch. That's something that these models are really good at the moment, and you can obviously do this in ChatGPT or in the Gemini app and things like that. Something that's really nice is having these generative tools in the same environment as your existing CAD tools. So this is the Runchat plugin, which is just a Runchat web view. It's exactly the same app. It's just docked in my Rhino viewport. And then we've got a Seidler house here, like a 3D model. What you get when you run Runchat in Rhino is you get this little tiny, or in SketchUp or in Blender, and yeah, eventually probably in Revit as well, is you get this little tiny toolbar here which just lets you very, very quickly go between CAD and Runchat. So let's say we want to grab a screenshot of this building. We can just click the little screenshot button and it'll bring that straight into Runchat where we can do stuff to it. So what we might do is another thing. Like one of the kind of, I think the best use cases for these tools at the moment is just producing photoreal renders. Now, the way that you can do that is you have an image, which is, for those of you who've used generative AI tools before, this is kind of like, previously you'd call it like a control image, like and you would use a control net model. But with these newer LLM, like multimodal models, you don't need control images anymore. They're clever enough to figure out what you want to do. I'm going to just make a reference image, which is photographic, and then we're going to apply that style of that reference image to this house. So let's say like a mid-century modern Australian house in the bush. That's a pretty good Australiana reference model here. It'll generate us our image. It's going to generate it, it looks like, in a portrait aspect ratio, which is good because that's the same aspect ratio as my building that I've got here. So it's gone and made something. We've got some kind of eucalyptus and some red Australian dirt and whatever. I don't know how Australian that image really is, but it's going to be good enough for now. And we're going to use that image as our style for rendering this thing. So for rendering both of them, we're just going to use an edit image node, and just purely to do something a bit different to what James just demoed, we'll use the new Flux model. So this model is very fast, it's very cheap, and it's got a bit of an AI stink to it. Like, I think the quality of the Gemini images is way better, but one thing that you can do with it, which is really cool, is you can prompt it by tagging your images. So you can say, make image 1 look like image 2, or we can say apply the style image 2 to image 1. So that is hopefully going to do what it says it'll do on the cover. It's going to, previously to do these sorts of image editing tasks, you'd have to use a very specific model, and you'd have to adjust all sorts of different settings and parameters in the model to make it do what you want. Nowadays, it's, if it doesn't work first time, it usually works second time, and that it just lets you iterate really, really quickly. All right, so we've gone and gotten something. You can see it's using the same bush. It's using the exact same view that we've got at this project. It doesn't look like a Seidler house. We're not going to worry about that too much for now, but it's just, as a stand-in for demos. Now, what's really awesome, we get asked all the time about consistency. So for this to be useful as an architectural visualization tool, you really want to be able to pull out multiple views of the model and render them with like the same materiality, basically, and the same context and the same site and all the rest of it. That consistency is really important. So what we're going to do is we're just going to grab a slightly different view of this house here. Let's, I don't know, we'll grab that one and we'll bring it in as a screenshot. So we've got slightly different view, and we've got our previous render. And so what we can do is we'll just use our previous render as the reference image for the next one. And that way it knows all about the context of the site. It knows where the materials get applied on this building. It's still a generative process, so it's still going to have to make up the information which you can't see, but let's wire it up and see what we get. We can use exactly the same prompt. So I'm just going to copy that one. And we're going to use exactly the same model as well. And here you go.
That was cool though. Cool. You just kind of flips the image and you can see the actual prompt.
Yeah, exactly. There.
That's pretty. That's sleek. I like that.
Little flip. Yeah. So the reason we do that is just because you want this Jekyll and Hyde where when all the nodes are flipped and you just see the outputs, it feels a bit like Miro or Canvas. Everything's visual. And then when you flip them and you see the inputs, you can very, very quickly see at a high level, like, okay, how is my data flowing through this workflow? Like, which prompts have I got where and stuff like that. All right, so it's gone and cranked that out. Now, this is a good example for a demo. So we've got here, it's kept this stair pretty consistent. And here, it's gone and kept the view of the building okay, but it's hallucinated this stair really badly. And that's something which happens fairly often. There's two ways you can get around it. Like, one is you just do exactly what James did in the last example, and you just use a better model. So that Flux one is really fast and really cheap. And it's great for demos because for that reason, you can just rip through it really quickly. And usually just swapping to a better model will fix the problem. But the other thing that you can do, which I'll show after we do this Gemini edit instead, is we can make specific changes to parts of the image. So we're just going to sketch over the images and prompt the model visually. So we could do stuff like if it goes and screws that stair again, we're just going to circle the stair and say, no, this stair's in the wrong place, just remove it or make it match our view more like before. So you're not stuck with, the entire image. You can actually make selective changes to parts of the image. I was hoping to make a slightly different selective change though, so I'm gonna let's run with it with Flux again, and then edit it if we have to. This is just the nature of demos, especially with generative models.
Live computation, AI. It's like kids, animals. It's like the worst thing to have in life. But that's part of the game here on our presentations, and everyone that's listening, we're all there. So, I mean, it's really incredible what you guys have made.
It's basically what we end up doing kind of all day, every day is dealing with these things. Okay, this is a better one that I'll be able to work with more, I think, to illustrate what I mean. So we've got these two views now. It's done a pretty good job of keeping the consistency between the two of them, but I want to change this stonework here. So if we want to make a change, what we're going to do is we can just click edit, and it goes and opens up sort of like a very rudimentary version of actually Microsoft Paint is probably the analogous software here. We wouldn't go so far as call it like bad Photoshop, but it gives you some layers to sketch over the image. You can paste other images in here, which is pretty useful. You can add text to the image, so you can tag specific parts of the image and make changes that way if you want to. But I'm just going to try highlighting this bit of stone, and we'll just save that. And we'll see how we go again just with Flux because it's fast. So we go make edit image, and we're going to try with Flux. I think there's a 50-50 chance this will work with Flux, and then we'll use Gemini if it doesn't work. And we're just going to say like make the or change the stone material to timber or something like that. So there's all this flexibility that we have with editing the images where you can roughly sketch over it like this and just write a prompt, or you can roughly sketch over it and write a prompt and provide a reference image. Like this is exactly what I want my timber to look like. Or you can roughly sketch over it and collage in what you want it to look like, and then have a prompt which basically says clean up the collage. These are what's exciting to me is that all of these techniques, they are exactly that. They're techniques. Like they're not. It isn't actually imposing too much on the creative process. You still have a lot of agency to not only like just solve problems like this, like, oh, that bit's wrong, I need to fix it. Also to explore ideas, like, oh, I want to see what it looks like for X, Y, and Z. And I want that to be more of a process. I don't want to have to go back and just write a longer prompt and just one shot the entire image. I want to be able to iterate on it and refine it. And that's something that even these like fast, cheap models like Flux are not too bad at doing. So last thing that I'll show in this demo, which is going slightly longer than I thought it would. Sorry, James, because I've got to pass the baton back to back to him. Is when we've got two images like this now that actually look fairly consistent, I think we can make a video between them. So we're going to do a first frame, last frame video. I guess we use Kling. And our first frame can be this one. And our last one can be this one. And I guess like we write some sort of arbitrary prompt because it's mostly going to be driven by these two images here. And we'll hit go. If I was slightly better, more organized with this demo, I think, oh, actually, look, while that's running, I'm just going to show you a couple of these other sketch tools because that's going to take, I don't know, a minute to generate. So in terms of our other sketching tools, let's copy this node out, have a look at it. Collaging, which is really useful. So like say I wanted to apply, like I want this little bit of timber here. I'm just going to screenshot it and then I'm going to paste it. I'm not going to paste it into Rhino. I'm going to try and paste it in here. Actually, I'm not sure if this is going to, oh yeah, there we go. So you can kind of paste it in and just roughly collage that way. And you can paste stuff from the internet as well. And one prompting technique that actually works really great is making these little mood boards in an image where you have a lot of visual references for what you want materials to be, and then you just draw arrows and show where you want these things to go. That's hopefully going to finish in the next minute or so. It doesn't take too long.
I do really like the kind of node-based approach. I mean, maybe I'm a little bit biased as a Grasshopper guy back, but I like it. It's much more targeted. It feels, you don't. It's not like as intimidating as looking at a Grasshopper script. It's quite logical. But there's something really nice about this as opposed to like a website wrapper where there's just, you don't really know what's going on.
Yep. All right, this is another like pretty average version of a video. It's just rotating the building and not rotating the site. Thanks very much, Kling.
Yeah.
We've got plenty more demos to get through though. So, I mean, yeah, I think the Grasshopper DNA is there, but then there's this learning curve for Grasshopper is so steep. So I think one of the challenges with doing anything with node editors is there's a huge benefit to be able to very quickly chain these things together. But you need to still make it like as intuitive as you possibly can, because otherwise people are always plugging the wrong thing into the wrong input.
Yeah. But it seems very logical. I like it. You've done a great job with the UI for sure. So now
it's a pretty funny comment in the chat.
Yeah.
So, look, if you feel that way,
we get some random people.
If you do feel that way, I mean, yeah, I think this is a part of like the special sauce of what makes Runchat pretty interesting. Like we, especially compared to some of the other products out there, is that like Runchat is like really optimized to be multimodal and just to also really enable you to connect to any sort of like API or integrate with anything. And I think this is a really cool example of what it's kind of capable of. So the kind of goal of this one here is to create a little plan for making like some landscape changes to this like outdoor area. And so we want to like kind of landscape it a bit, but we don't just want to do that. We want to create a little site plan. And we also want to try and create like a bill of materials and like a list of all of the plants that it would require in this garden, and then also try and get some live pricing on those. So I think this is pretty crazy. So we've got this backyard, and what we've done is we've gone and just sketched really crudely and said like, here's a little layout of what we would like. And so we were able to really easily generate this result from just that simple set of sketching and a good prompt about removing the decks, and then giving some like ideas of the Australian native species that we want, and just giving a few instructions. We can share all these workflows after as well if anyone would like to poke around. And so the next thing we've done is we use the agent node to to ask again for like a list of Australian species. And what's cool about the use of Gemini in this case is that it actually like searches in the background what sort of plants, like Australian native plants, are common in a certain location. And so it does a search for that info, and you can kind of see the history of like where it's getting this data. You can look at the Google search that it's used to find these results. I think I've just closed my tab. One sec, I'll go back. Okay, and so it's gone and grabbed that info. It's analyzed the design and the plants that we've specified, and then the next thing we've done is we've tried to like take this landscape. We've asked it for like an aerial image of it, and so I guess like it's operating with not much detail in this case, like so it only knows the extent of what's in this view, so it's probably like hallucinating some of the stuff of like where these buildings actually terminate, and that could be addressed by just providing more images of the site when prompting. And yeah, so the exciting thing is that we've taken this image and then we've asked to identify all of the plants in this landscape scene, and we've given some really specific instructions to the LLM on I guess the exact parameters we want it to output, which is usually quite hard to do, surprisingly. So yeah, we have this ability to be really specific about what we want. And you can see that each of these different parameters that we've been looking for correlate to like a column in this table. So what it's done in this case is it's figured out what each of these plants are, and then it's gone and looked them up. It's gone and found a price and a supplier. And so it's like, I think, pretty amazing example of like being able to go, like to use Runchat to go between, a lot of different modalities of like the types of questions and problems you want to be solving with it. And so, yeah, in this case, we kind of continue on by taking this reference of a landscape drawing that we like, taking that image from before, and then asking it to generate a landscape output. And yeah, so I think yeah, it's another interesting set of use cases for Runchat.
Yeah, I mean the thing here, which is kind of I think interesting in the direction that we want to go in, is instead of purely generating images, I think what's really interesting here is reasoning about images and providing more and more context to the image generating model. So the amazing thing about these multimodal LLMs compared to diffusion models like Midjourney and things like that is you can give it a whole lot of web information. You can give it a CSV of data on all of these plants. You can give it a bunch of reference images for what you want things to look like. And then you can prompt it to think about those things and produce an image as a result. So you can say, look, here's, these are the design parameters that I have, and this is my budget. Now go search the internet, find the products, and then communicate visually what those products might look like in the outcome. So I think that the extending, using visual media as a way of engaging with like fairly complex design tasks, it doesn't just have to be viz. It can also be, more analytical, let's say, as well, which is kind of interesting.
It's a really, really interesting use case, that like connecting it with how much it actually costs, supplying, you got like kind of mock drawings, diagrams there. It's really, really powerful.
Yeah, for sure. So we've got one more quick demo. I think.
Keep them coming.
Just let it take a second, and then we can talk
Guys,
about
any questions you have? I know James has been pretty good at replying to some of them. We've got a few trolls. As the channel has got bigger, we've attracted some trolls, but that's just life online.
Trolls
well, hopefully we could change the trolls' minds.
Yeah, stick around, man. Stick around, troll.
Well, no, I mean, they just asked a good question, which is why would someone choose RunChat instead of Nano Banana Pro in my use case? I think like the thing to say is that under the hood, RunChat is using Nano Banana Pro, and I think what RunChat offers is like a user interface to be able to do more powerful things, to like work with different sets of context and info, and go between architectural designs on the left, use Rhino and go between an editor and stitch all these things together. So I think like that's the main thing that I think about when kind of one like thinking about that question, because like the way that you use Nano Banana Pro currently is like in a chat interface. It's hard to make specific edits.
Yeah.
You're going back and forth. You're waiting a lot, and with Runchat, you can just like branch ideas in parallel. So I think there's a lot of advantages to the interface that make it really just feel good to design and like experiment with ideas. So there's another good question later on that we should get to about the ethics, maybe. But I guess Quill looks ready to cover this part.
Yeah, I think. I
Yeah.
mean, I think that's an awesome question. What's the difference between using this in Gemini and using it in Runchat? And I think it is the UI. Like
Yeah.
there's two things. One is like chat UIs are fantastic, but they're not like a fundamentally visual canvas. And so I think for iteration, it's pretty bad, because everything is inherently quite linear. And then the other one is, yeah, just multimodality. So you want to go from, you know, image to video to web search to 3D models to anything. It's kind of handy having all of that in one place because it just lets you get into more of a creative flow, you know, copy pasting between tools and stuff like that. So two things I want to show to wrap up the demo. One is, you know, Runchat can generate 3D models using a few which we think are kind of new and exciting and good. There's sort of various options for speed and quality. And then any 3D model you make in Runchat, you can just import it straight into Rhino as a textured mesh. So you click this little button and it'll just bring it straight in. The other thing we do with the Rhino plugin is any code, like any Python code that we generate in Rhino, you can run it in, or that we generate in Runchat, you can run that code in Rhino. So that means that you can use, say, Gemini 3 to write a script to do something for you in Rhino, and then just run it. So this is just a demo, I think, of where things are going. This is not a use case necessarily. I don't think architecture practices are going to do this today, but they might do it in a year's time. And it also demonstrates some cool multimodality here. So the prompt for this one is I'm saying generate a Rhino Python script to remodel this object. So I've only given it an image from a 16 by 16 grid of mesh boxes. Use vertex colors for the shading. So that's the prompt. So you've shown it an image of a thing, and then Gemini goes and thinks about it for a while, and it writes a little script. And I'm just going to select that node, and we'll click Run Script. And it goes, and so this is not like, Gemini doesn't know anything about 3D necessarily. Like it's just looked at that image, reasoned about the 3D form of that image, and then written custom Python code to go and create all of the boxes using, I don't know what algorithm that vaguely matches the geometry of that image. And so to me, that just seems like a pretty, the idea that you can make custom tools and skip a lot of the steps. Like it's not like it's taking this and turning it into a grid of voxels and then filling it in like Minecraft. It's taking this, reasoning about the underlying forms, writing scripts to make those forms, and then voxelizing it because I've asked it to. And you can do this for anything, you know, like here's another image. This one doesn't work quite as well. I'm going to run it anyway. There you go. So it's like, because I think it's constrained by 16 by 16 grid, because I've just asked it to do 16 by 16. But it's still like, it shows you that there is kind of there's the glimpse of an understanding at quite a deep level about form here. And that I think is like a pretty new capability. It's nascent, but it's a direction which I think is going to be super interesting.
That is really cool. Maybe actually, can you bring it back up? I think it's pretty cool to see the Rhino integration. I mean, I think maybe one part you sort of mentioned is like, why would you use this over Nano Banana, for example? Is for me, it's just the seamless integration with Rhino, right? And like, yeah, if you're in Blender or SketchUp, I think you guys said right. To me, that's
Yeah.
just like incredible. Um,
Yeah. Yeah.
and it
Yeah.
seems turned around. The troll is now going to give it a go. You know, so we've gone from Runchat shit to I'm going to give it a go.
It's fair.
So,
I think it was fair. It was fair enough. That video was pretty shit. That's
I
like
mean, but
the
then
worst of
you're
it
not
ever.
you're not controlling the model, right? It's like the model is doing what it's doing, and if you've used AI at all, it's a roll of the dice game. You know, sometimes you get it, sometimes you don't.
Yeah. 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 Totally. I mean, I think maybe like just to uh, James, if there's questions that we want to answer, like in the background, I can just be tinkering away and showing this back and forward between Rhino, which is kind of cool because just
Yeah.
getting these screenshots in and just immediately editing them and literally going back and forward. So this is
Yeah.
generating some code from an image, making a 3D model in Rhino, pulling a view out, and then like we might start doing stuff with this, like like
Yeah. This is when you showed me this video, I was just like, this is incredible. Just the seamless integration for me
yeah.
alone is really amazing.
Yeah, I mean, we were
Yes.
surprised by it, to be honest, because it is just a web app that's just sitting here. But the flow that you have when you can bring the screenshot in straight away and seeing everything side by side, I think it does. Um, like it's my favorite place to use Runchat now is just using
Yeah.
it in Rhino, even though it's not that different to having it in a Chrome tab in a browser. Like it's because I guess it feels like my design space, and you've just got another little tool that just sits there and you can use it when you need it. So, yeah.
It's that holy grail of just like simplicity, right? So if you just drag something in or click a button and bring it in, that's what's very cool about this. So
Well,
when you're
maybe.
using this, oh sorry,
Oh,
John.
sorry.
When
Well,
you're
maybe you can
using
make
this,
a 3D model. Sorry.
yeah, go on, go for it,
Go
go for
ahead,
it.
Ollie. All right, all right. Yeah, well, maybe do you want to create a 3D model of that chair or something and import that into Rhino just to show the like omnidirectional of the model? Oh,
Oh,
I
yeah,
alluded
yeah,
to that
yeah.
earlier.
Yeah, maybe we should
Sorry, Ollie.
make this thing like a bit more funky or something. I don't know. Let's try and uh,
I was gonna ask what like because it's open in the Rhino interface. Then does it really understand Rhino? Like, does it understand Rhino geometry, like connecting to the commands, or is it just kind of creating like 3D objects?
Yeah,
uh,
it's
there you go,
okay, cool.
James. Go.
Oh, I was just gonna say it's like it's fairly limited, I think, currently in terms of how it works with Rhino right now. But I think what we're always searching for is new use cases. So if someone's got something specific that they want to do, and we
Mm.
think that we can get that working, then we're pretty happy to try and add a new tool to that toolbar, or yeah, just like try and add to how it can interface with Rhino. Rhino does provide like a super rich API, and all the folks at McNeil have been like very kind to us, and so they're willing as well to like help us figure out how to do some pretty new things. So yeah, I think like maybe the most complicated example there is like the script execution, and even that's on the yeah, like on the more basic side of things. But looks like Will's starting to cook a bit with some
That's
Well, we go from
funky bottles.
inflatables to voxel back to inflatables. It's quite
yeah.
impressive. It's kind of iterating there. Um, there are a few questions. I mean, someone's working on their own house. They're going to try it for interior exterior, so they can see. Um, can this be used for urban design scale? Well, I guess it can be used for anything, right? It's literally your imagination.
Yeah, I mean, it's worth a shot. It's also maybe a good plug. We're working with the different design at the moment. They're working on a set of tutorials on how to use Runchat for an array of different architectural use cases that cover like residential, interior, landscape, urban design, all sorts of like really interesting use cases. So that'll be coming up in sometime in the next few weeks. So, and that'll give you some insight into some of the other like rich capabilities there are to go between yeah, Rhino and Runchat. So yeah, definitely give it a shot. Try urban stuff, and if you're having any trouble with it or you want any help, shout out to us on Discord. We're pretty active on there. That's
Yeah,
looking
maybe
good, Will.
maybe touch on
Yes, we'll.
yeah, that was it's pretty funny. You've definitely been cooking. It's gone.
Yeah,
It's pretty
bouncy
impressive.
castles.
Where can people use it right now? Like, what's is it free? What's the kind of license structure?
Yeah, you can just sign up and use it. We give you some free credits. Everything that uses GPUs on the cloud consumes credits. Like somebody's got to make some money somewhere. And then there's a couple of different ways to pay for it. So you can, if you've got a Gemini API key or a FAL API key, you can link those and just keep using the free Runchat account, which is great. If you're on a budget, you just have to pay Gemini or pay FAL. Then we got a hobby plan, like it's a subscription, it's 15 US a month, which gives you a bunch of credits and access to a gallery and a few things like that. Or there's a pro plan, which is more for businesses, so you can create a team and you can have private run chats and things like that. But it's all that information's on the website. To try it out, you just sign up.
Nice. People can get their hands dirty with it already. I mean, what you guys have built, congrats. It's really cool. I mean, when you sent it, I was just like, I haven't seen. I think there's maybe one other player in the space that's kind of going down the node route. A lot of people are kind of building a wrapper website around an interface. What I do like about this is it gives that layer of control as architects, right? You're probably familiar with a little bit of visual scripting at least, and that seems pretty straightforward to use Runchat. I think just that seamless back and forth between Rhino is so powerful.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah, making it more seamless is what we're working hard on. Like trying to just make it as easy as possible to use, and so I think it's only in the last couple of months really that this workflow where you have your screenshots and you can sketch over them and render them and it works pretty well most of the time. Like that reliability is something that's actually quite new. And previously that would have required a lot of fiddling. So that then means that you can get into more of a flow and start actually experimenting. You're not feeling like you're just struggling with the models all the time and trying to get all of the parameters just right. It actually becomes more about, well, what is it that's important about this image? What is it trying to communicate? That getting to that next step is like way more important than knowing which parameters you should be tweaking. So yeah, those sorts of things are pretty important to us. And then the 3D stuff's gotten really good recently too. Like the models that we were just showing then to make the inflatables, that's a pretty fast, cheap one. It's great for doing a demo because it only takes 20 seconds to make your little model. But if you're willing to wait longer, I think there's quite a lot of potential in that space too, where you can generate some pretty sophisticated geometry in a couple of minutes and it doesn't cost that much. And so for anyone that's in the sort of generative design space, like people who previously were tinkering around with writing all sorts of code to generate really complex 3D form, it's not too hard to see how these sorts of multimodal generative workflows where you're playing around with generating a ton of images in parallel and then a ton of videos in parallel and then converting those to world models, like fully immersive environments and stitching those together. Like that to me seems actually really, really just around the corner. Like it doesn't feel like sci-fi. That feels like next 6 months. And that's something that we are also pretty interested in working on is getting into not just making like 3D assets, like a little chair, inflatable bouncy castle, um, but more like environments, generating Gaussian splat type environments from these images so that you can explore and navigate. Like I think that'd be amazing in Rhino. You've got image to explorable, navigatable space, which you can then infill, like go walk into and add detail to and stuff like that. I think that'd be sick and exciting.
Yeah, that's cool futures ahead. Someone asked, is there a community like Discord? But I think you mentioned that it's on your website. There's a link to the Discord, right? So you can go and bug these guys about questions and features you want and stuff like that. I don't know, James. You were flirting with the ethical question. Do we wanna open? I mean, this was kind of like not specific to what you guys are doing, but just in general. Do we want to go down this
Yeah.
road? Yeah.
Oh, I mean, I reckon Gwyll will have an elegant answer for that one. I reckon Gwyll should take it.
Well, so, someone
Um,
asked, what do you think about the connection between creativity, new design tools, ethics, and the perception of public spaces after the impact of new AI technologies that will transform social relations and therefore cities? Is there a risk AI will homogenize the exploration of new spatial concepts? So basically, are we just going to be producing the same shit?
Yeah. Well, I'm only going to touch on this really briefly, and that is we do feel a bit of something we really don't want to do is make a great tool for generating slop, like homogeneous, uncritical media. Um, but we're obviously walking a fine line because, these generative AI models, unless you use them critically and with a lot of intentionality, that is what they default to, slop. Like homogeneity is built into the models for sure. So I think the way that we want to get around that is just by, like, we are creatives ourselves. Like, we understand how design processes work, and I think we just want to make tools that enable people to have more ownership over their own design processes. And these generative models inevitably will be a part of that in some way, but they shouldn't replace that. I think, like, you don't want to replace an entire design process with a prompt. That to me seems
Yeah.
like the opposite of what we want to do. So instead, I sort of feel like, one of the reasons we started the company is feels like there's a gap between what the models should be able to do and what everybody is doing with them, like Studio
Yeah.
Ghibli vacation of stuff, or even the demos that we showed, I think also fall into that category. Like, there's certain kind of cliches of like things that everybody's doing with the models, but I just have this hunch that there's so much more they can do if you get quite creative in how you use them, and especially the multimodal models where you can provide it with so much context. It's not just a really short text prompt anymore. You just throw everything at them and see what they make. And yeah, to me, it's actually kind of exciting that I think as the models get better, it'll address the criticism and concern of that question, because you just have much more agency with how you use them.
Yeah. Exciting. I think it's right. It's like I definitely don't think it's the click of a button and someone generates a project, right? It's really exactly the workflows that you see. It's this now you've got this AI, maybe computational sidekick next to you that can make little tools, that can make 3D, it can make video, and it's just amplifying your design skill set really.
Mm-hmm. Yep, definitely. And that's what we're seeing, with how people are using RunChat. I think that already, there's a lot of students using it in first year design courses or first year comms courses. And the way that I'm seeing people use it is not just to make kind of familiar images. They're actually starting to make things that feel kind of new and strange and different. And it does look like they've kind of got a superpower where they're able to so quickly go
Yeah.
from rough model in Rhino to very compelling photoreal image, and then back to something which maybe has fabrication information in it, or, it just, yeah, I think that design processes are probably going to change a bit because of these tools too. Like as people have certain skills amplified, or as you feel like you can collaborate with a bunch of these little generative agents in a productive way, not in like a gimmicky way. Yeah, for sure, it'll impact design.
I've got to ask, have you tried to connect the world of hologram with this? So you're kind of like in a virtual environment playing with the 3D.
Yeah, we definitely have. Last year we did a workshop at Acadia, which was combining the two. Runchat was really early on, and what we did was we generated videos in Runchat, and then we're converting those to Gaussian splat models. Actually, if you go on our Discord, there's I was chatting about this with someone else, and we posted some content from that workshop. But so you generate the 3D models, splat models with Runchat, and then we were bringing those into mixed reality and kind of tracing over them. So they were used as a really abstract, almost like loose template that you'd trace over to make the design that we then went and fabricated. So there's a bit of overlap there. That was what we did kind of last year, but it's not like you have to do that. Runchat could be used to make things for fabrication, or you might just go fabricate things traditionally. Go get your sewing machine out and make that inflatable bouncy castle thing.
Yeah, exactly. Well, cool, guys. I think it's been a few more questions, but I think that's all the good questions. I think credit to you guys. I mean, it seems really cool what you've built. I love the seamless integration, the UI. I really like, and I think this excites me so much more than these wrappers. I'm kind of seeing just these, upload your image and then you kind of get spit back like some image back at you. I really like this kind of workflow. So yeah, I'm excited to see what you guys do with it. I don't know if there's anything that you want to give a shout out. Is there any new feature or new thing that's going to come on? Obviously, people can reach out to you on LinkedIn, on the Discord. Go and check out RUNCHAT.APP, and yeah, get in contact with these guys.
Yeah. The only thing I'd say is jump on Discord, say hi. We'll give you some free credits.
Yeah, we're almost too active on Discord, so yeah, reach out on there. It's the easiest way to get a hold of us. We love helping. Yeah, and I think in terms of features, yeah, I guess we'll keep you posted, Ollie, and maybe there'll be some exciting things we can share with you and maybe share on this platform in the future. It'd be really exciting to do that.
For sure. We'd love to have innovators, and this looks really cool. So congrats, guys. I think this is going to wrap up the last live of the year. So thank you guys for tuning in all the way from Australia. This is probably the last live of 2025. And I think we're finishing on AI. We've done a lot of BIM 2.0 recently. So now finishing on the AI world. And I think it could be quite interesting if those two worlds join. I know you met, actually, I forgot to ask you, are you going to do any other integrations that you're working on? Revit, I think someone asked about 3ds Max. Any more integrations in the pipeline?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, this is what's awesome about the web app and web view integration. It's really, really easy to add them. So, I mean, when I say really, really easy, it's compared to how hard it was 5 years ago or something. Now it's relatively much more straightforward. So we'd love to support like pretty much any existing design software that people want to use Runchat in. We'll try and integrate it.
Nice.
Yeah. 100%.
All right. Exciting times ahead, guys. Thank you guys for tuning in. We'll see you probably next year in our next live as we kick off our sprints to the summit. But guys, thank you guys. Go check out Runchat, and we'll see you in the next live.
Thanks for having us on, Ollie. This has been fun.
Cheers, guys.